do we understand song, language, connectedness? And that's how we all connect together. So it is my great pleasure to give a welcome, I guess, but you can all do this acknowledgement at the same time at any point in time, and paying respects to elders past, present and future, which is, I guess, myself and one of those in that community, and understanding that Mobo is the day of three, Moborono, the day of yesterday, today, day of tomorrow in living culture, and that we continue to understand and learn from the space that we're in. And as you drive home, in whichever direction you drive, please pay attention to any word that is not English, because it's going to be an Aboriginal word of a region, especially with that Yatla or the Pimpama, Kumara, or when you go up to Kipering, place of the bull. So remember that Aboriginal languages are around you.
Thank you. So I'm talking about supporting autistic university students in online courses, and it sort of builds a lot on what we've been talking about. This was research we did a few years ago. It's an AEL teaching grant. The reason I'm doing it today is to show what you can do with an AEL teaching grant. The investigator were Warner Adams, myself, Chris Campbell and Linda Davies, and I'll just acknowledge the big Donald Sue Taylor and Jack Denhoughton, who also worked on the project. So what we did was a systematic review. We register all our systematic reviews with Prospero, our protocol. We looked at 5 databases. We included terms that related to autism, tertiary education, online and student experiences. Identified 594 articles after the duplicates were removed, and 4 articles for inclusion criteria. So not a lot of research done in that area. Of those 4 articles, 3 were done in Australia and 3 articles only had 1 participant. So it shows how little research that had been done. Just to qualify, the reason that we did this and focus on this was that we were teaching online and many of our students were autistic. And I use the term autistic or on the autism spectrum, and that's terminology that our students prefer, and so that's why I'm using that. So when we got the research, the systematic review, from that we built a survey. The questions related to things that have come out from those, total of 45 people that were in the research. But reasons for studying online, interactions with course staff and other students, experiencing use online, learning materials, reflections on skills that helped or hindered their learning experience. We also provided 3 screenshots of mock Blackboard sites, which we were using Blackboard at the time. And these differed on the amount of information on the page, the range of colours, the number of non-content items, except example pictures on the page, and I'll show you some examples. And we asked for the students to provide feedback on each of those images about what they thought was helpful, not helpful for their learning. We got 2 autistic researchers to look at our survey questions to make sure that the questions were written in a way that was accessible and understandable and clear. So here, scary face. There's an example of 2 of the images that we had of the Blackboard images. This gorgeous little feature was on each of the 3. No one commented scary looking person. And boy, she looks really unfriendly, and we have somebody else teaching. But as you can see, just even in here, there's images, icons, there's headings. The icons and headings are presented the same way in those areas. And here there isn't any icons, there's colours used on text. So we deliberately adjusted each of the pages so that there were strengths and what we thought might have been strengths or weaknesses. Our participants were predominantly female and across the age range and across levels mainly. bachelor course and predominantly spoke English as a primary language. Now, I put this in to remind myself to qualify what I'm about to say for the next minute. So our philosophy is pretty much good teaching practices support all students. Poor teaching practices will be a barrier for many students. Good students can work. No matter how bad you are at teaching, good students will get through. But a lot of students will struggle, and some of those struggles are due to the barriers that we put in place in terms of our teaching. So this is very much recommendations from the findings we got about what neurodivergent students found unhelpful or what they recommended to be helpful. So one of the things, and we talked about disclosure, students, if they have to get support, they have to disclose that they need support, and they may not want to disclose. So my thoughts are, if we can create courses that support the student without the student having to disclose, then we're creating a more inclusive teaching experience for all students. Some students do want support, but they don't know where to get it, or they don't know that what support they can get, and they don't know how to contact them, and they might not know the different services provided. So recommendations are ensure all students know about the support, and it's not just disability support. It is support about how do I write academically, how do I reference, how do I find books, well, not books, how do I find journals, how do I structure an essay, how do I do these tasks, how do I plan my time. So the uni has got a lot better since we did this research, and it wasn't based on our research. I'd love to say it was. It was.
Definitely.
It was based on our research. We're really noticing changes. But having that information in a central place for them to find, like start here, in your orientation message, in your first session, letting students know that these things are available for them, rather than them having to, I'm struggling, I've got to find someone to help me because I'm struggling, where do I go? If it's up there, it's accessible for everybody. So anyone who wants it can go have it. This is an interesting thing. I just had my meeting with the disability support team, and they've offered to write a letter to support a 1-week extension for assignments. We had this discussion this morning. That wasn't what they said. That was just me. While this might be helpful, I also think it could backfire, because one of the issues I have is task initiation, and often require the motivation of a looming deadline to get me going. Pushing that deadline back may just push the motivation back, but it's helpful to know it's there if I need it. So the extension may not be the support that students have, but it's sort of the blanket one that neurodivergent students get an extra week. I'm really helping them to be able to do the task. If they've got anxiety, they're just going to be anxious for an extra week. So we need to think about what support we're providing and how it is. Students said, one said, it'd be great to have examples of assignments so I have a clear understanding of what's required. Just want to put a footnote on that one, is just giving an example might not be sufficient for them to understand what is required, because what they think when they're looking at the assignment and what they pick up as the important point might not be the important point that you want them to pick up. So just be careful of what you use as an exemplar and how you highlight that. This is access to PDF documents for each course. You know how when I was studying, when I did my master's, and if you're studying online, you've got everything in a package, and it came when Australia Post delivered, those sort of things. But what we could think about is making sure that everything that is online is downloadable for students, so they can create their own electronic thing rather than losing forest. Visual presentation of information. Students told us they preferred clear pathways to navigate through the course content, and they would find it helpful if it was a consistent format. Canvas, the idea of Canvas was that it was going to be consistent across the university. Rachel and Hayley, if you don't know Rachel and Hayley, they're two amazing PhD students who are course convening this year, part-time taking Nicole's place. They started with Canvas at the beginning of T1. T2, they have gone through all the courses to make sure that they're consistent. So even within the migration from Blackboard to Canvas, where you thought we're starting afresh, there's been movement. And so what they've done is made it consistent across the courses so that students know they can find the information in the same spot on each of their course sites. Consistent use of headings, contrast levels, high preferred, not just neurodivergent students. You've got to think about people using Easy Reader. Anything, we need to be thinking about how our materials are presented online so that they're accessible for the majority of people. Font, large default fonts, serif type rather than all our fancy ones, being consistent with your font type. Labelling visual icons, labels were preferred, embed videos, punctuation and grammar, misplaced commas, and I mean, I'm guilty of this, like I don't notice the difference between my heading having a semicolon and a full stop and a dash, but for some students that can be really off-putting. And why is there a difference between these different levels? What's this mean? Delivering content. Students preferred when it was clear what was the most important thing and the things that needed their attention. So we're doing some work with one of our autistic researchers doing some work, and she was looking at interviews and she said every word is, every word is the same. It's got the same weight. So she couldn't pick out what was the most important thing about what they said because it was all equal. So just being aware, realising, highlighting what information is important, providing dot points. Recognising that, giving them awareness of or understanding of how to communicate, ensure that they know how to contact you, set up your rules and unis. Obviously, again, this changed things and it's given us more things. Provide clear messages because that last one wasn't. Check you answer what the students are trying to say and check with the students. Student-to-student communication, being aware that sometimes students will be listening online and not looking like they're participating, but they may be, or they may prefer to listen to the recording because then they can pause you and listen to you at their own pace and understand. So just be aware of different ways students are engaging. The other one is, and this is something we've embedded in all our courses, is that giving them signposts, because organising their learning can be tricky, and it's not. It's a lot of neurodivergent students can have difficulty with this or find this difficulty. Well, actually, a lot of us can find it difficult. Weekly announcements to be in a good place. For this week, you'll be up here. Progress checklists. The feedback from students is how helpful that checklist is, being able to tick off what they've done to show where they've got. Templates and examples, quizzes, or just checking on, are they on the right track? Did they get the right information? Are they connecting with the right stuff? You can find these resources on the Griffith Explore Learning and Teaching site, just in case no one knew that it existed. I'll put it on the website. We created 6 fact sheets from that, and these are the fact sheets based on that, and there's the publication. And now time for questions.
Like exactly. Probably also use that time. A question.
Okay, what was preferred? The preferred for titles was there was so one of the pictures right at the beginning had icons and bold titles.
Yeah.
It but I saw later on it said don't use the highlight. Students didn't want the highlighted. So
The highlighted was, there was a picture where, like the bottom one down here, in Kate's visual,
yeah,
the bottom one had a yellow script
yeah,
highlighted.
yeah, right there,
Yeah.
right there, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
you say it.
they don't- that isn't helpful.
So they don't like that. So that is the preferred title with an icon?
Yeah, that is, and dot points or saying what is important. So we did a lot of work with Ray Jobs. If anyone has worked, Ray is amazing, absolutely amazing in terms of accessible learning sites for students. And she was really good at saying, you know, if you've got a PDF of an article, I just stood up and I said, read this article, she'd say, you need to tell them what it is that they're supposed to be reading about it. Like, I thought it was easy just to tell them, read it. Anyway.
No, I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of kind of a question. Does it, bit of a story, one of my ex-PhD students did a study on that image around where to put you in the frame for the PowerPoint. And I'm wondering if this has influence for these students. So she said that she did a big diverse study around this, and if you have to be literally standing with your arms shown as you're talking, but to about here, that this isn't as it's more important to have down here so they can see your whole body, and the way that you're interacting really does matter. And to be on the right side and to have the PowerPoint, sorry, I'm doing it here, and to have the PowerPoint on this side of you. So stay to the right, PowerPoint here. If you're not in the frame whatsoever, they don't like it. You have to be there, they have to see your facial.
And the guy that's doing the 3-minute thesis that won the AEL one.
Yes, that's really interesting.
PhDs on also the visual presentation and connection. So it's worth listening to his 3-minute thesis which was advertised recently to be sometime.
Southbank 20 something.
Yeah.
About a month. Yeah.
Just the statement. Something I come across recently. Canvas has actually got an accessibility format. Yeah, so my canvas isn't red anymore; it's grey. It's a dark grey. Yeah. So there's a setting on there, so you don't have to have those red background.
And it can read the text out to you as well. At the top right corner, there's an immersive reader, I think it's called, and you click on it and it brings up a paragraph at a time in larger text and it reads it out to you. It's really good.
Do these students like images or pathways? Because in the old Blackboard, I used to do start here, this is the image of it, then go here, then go here, then go here, then go here, because Canvas doesn't have that functionality yet.
It depends, like every student is different. So what I think is most important is consistency. And I think if it's consistency, you learn, okay, that that's where it is and that's how it is. And so even if it might not be your style, at least you know where it is. Consistent like that.
And something Kate came up in the interviews was that many autistic students, like you were saying with Connie, they treat every task as of equal importance.
Yeah.
So if you get behind, you have to do everything. So if let's say you're 2 weeks behind, you can't go, oh, well, that looks optional, that looks optional. They have to work through everything with equal weight and equal importance, unless you tell them this is optional, this is critical, this is optional, this is extended. Everything is treated with equal value.
Yeah.
So just being aware, if you've got people behind, falling behind, or saying I'm struggling, you can work with them to identify what was important. Which is not clear in our online learning pattern. We use kind of a hunch to guess what's important, but our autistic students are saying that's not the way they work.
And when we were working with Ray, one of the things she said is just linking the information. So, you know, it's based on that reading, or, you know, after that discussion, then this, and keeping that continuity so that they can get that through. And
So you want me to start
doing something. So
Ready? Finished, everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kate.